Annyeonghaseyo! Welcome to Afternoona Delight, where Leah, Megan, and Amy, romance novelists and your K-romance guides. So grab some dekboki and listen to your new favorite unnies. Hey everybody! So tonight, this is Megan, and I am joined by a very special guest, Carleen from the Netherlands. So she is one of our Patreon members and thankfully agreed to talk about today's drama with me. And I'm super, super excited. So Carleen, say hi and maybe tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Carleen. Like I said, I'm from the Netherlands and I discovered K-dramas, I think about 2 years ago. And now I'm fully into them.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy. So this is just a real quick. I watched Gyeongseong Creature season 1 and 2, and I felt like not a lot of other people did, or at least not a lot of the other people in like the K-drama circles. And I really have been wanting to talk about this drama, and Carleen actually reached out to me. She's a Patreon member. I know her. We've been on Zoom lives before, and said, well, if you'll have me, I would love to talk about it. And I was like, absolutely, let's get it on the schedule. So I'm really excited. But first of all, just so listeners get to know you, I know some of our Patreon members already know you, but for, the wider audience, can you, we're going to take a page from Afternoona Asks. Whenever they have a guest on, they ask them for 5 K-dramas to get to know them. So let's do that with you as well. What are 5 K-dramas that we can get to know you by?
So the first one would be Tale of the Nine Tails, because I just love anything with fantasy creatures. I mean, gummihos, goblins, reapers, demons, devils, and you can spoon feed them to me. And especially if you have a charismatic lead like Lee Dong-wook. I don't care about the plot holes. I don't care about emojis doing weird stuff. So anything with fantasy. Yes, that's the first.
Yeah, I love that one too.
The second one, Flower of Evil. Now, this one is in my top 3 because I also like suspense thrillers, and this one has so much suspense in it. I mean, I watched the swimming pool scene somewhere in the evening, and I couldn't sleep after that.
Yes. Oh, the swimming pool scene. So oh my God, you're right. So much tension.
Adrenaline. And I'm still thinking about this drama on, let's say, a weekly basis. I've watched it months ago. It's still in my head. So I really like that drama. Yeah. The third one is Atypical Family, and that needs a bit of explanation. So it's a drama with a family with supernatural powers. And the male lead can travel back in time to his happy moments. And normally he cannot interact or change anything, except now when he meets the female lead, when he travels back to the past, then he can interact. So I like time travel, but the reason I picked this drama is that whenever he's going back in time to the female lead, there's this song that's playing. And it's a bit different than your normal OST song. It has also a bit of this surprising feeling. And I noticed that music, it's really done well, can really enhance my experience of a drama. And this one really did that. I also have it with the OST of Goblin or Love Between Fairy and Devil. Also the reverse. If there's a really annoying song, it can really take me out of a drama. Something in the Rain, for instance. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Highly annoying.
Yeah.
So,
well, I want to add to that. I know you watch nothing. We're not going to talk about Mr. Plankton. Okay. I know you watch Mr. Plankton. But there is a song in Mr. Plankton that, after I finished the drama, I had to listen to the song and read the lyrics, and I did it like 5 times in a row. And that was the best way for me to like process the drama and really also enhanced my experience of how I felt. Like that song was just so perfectly matched. It's it's The Town by Joon-ha Park, for anyone curious, but I almost can't listen to that song because it'll make me cry, but it's so perfect. So I totally get what
and
you
also
mean.
the song they played at the end of an episode, Dreaming, No California Dreaming from the Mamas and the Papas, that fitted so well.
The mama.
Yeah,
it did, right?
Yeah. So music, very, very important to me. Fourth drama, Six Flying Dragons. So this is a 50-episode long historical about the founding of Gyeongseong. And if you had told me beforehand that I would watch 50 episodes about the founding of Gyeongseong, I would have laughed. But it really pulled me in. I turned into this history nerd, looking up all the historical details, what was true. It has great sword fighting. So if you want to see Byun Yohan fighting, you have to see this drama. But you'll have to do 50 episodes.
Okay. That's a lot.
I know.
That's a lot.
Helped. I had a watching buddy. So shout out to Katie. So we watched it together.
Yeah.
It helped.
Oh, nice. See, that's fun. I might need a buddy for 50 episodes.
And the last one is Love to Hate You, because that is just a really, really nice rom-com with great leads. What I really liked about it is that we have a female lead who's not a damsel in distress who needs saving by the male lead, but she can take care of herself and she can literally kick some ass. Yeah.
Yes, she can.
That's my segue to Gyeongseong Creature, because Gyeongseong Creature also has a female lead who can kick some ass and take care of herself.
Yes, she can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you happen to see My Name, where Han So-hee... Okay, so Han So-hee, who is the heroine of Gyeongseong Creature, she was in My Name, which is essentially like a revenge thriller. It was like 12 episodes, I think. It might have even been 10. It was very condensed. But it's the same thing, man. She was just this like kick butt heroine who, I mean, inside she was incredibly vulnerable and broken. But she had this exterior where she was just very cold and kick butt, basically, like physically.
I need to add that to my ever-growing list of dramas I still need to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I love My Name. It's just brutal. It's brutal and violent. But, you know, if you watch Gyeongseong Creature, then
I think I can handle
you
it.
are prepared. Yeah. So, okay, let me give a little background for people who have not seen Gyeongseong Creature. So first of all, we're going to discuss both seasons. There are 2 seasons of Gyeongseong Creature. We're going to have a few questions that will be non-spoilery, but I will tell you the majority of this podcast is going to be full spoilers for season 1 and season 2. So probably if you've seen both seasons, this is the podcast for you. And if you haven't seen any of Gyeongseong Creature, go ahead and risk it. But I do think this is a drama where the surprises are very good. So Gyeongseong Creature is a historical thriller with a science fiction bent that is available on Netflix. The first part aired at the end of 2023, and a teaser at the end of the last episode hinted at a possible season 2. Much to my surprise, season 2 actually happened, unlike All of Us Are Dead Too. And season 2 of Gyeongseong Creature aired this September, right before spooky season. So I have to say I was kind of in the mood for it because of the timing. I think they did a good job with the timing. So yeah, we'll be discussing a few things without spoilers. I'll let you know when spoilers happen. Here is a brief synopsis of the premise for season 1, pretty much. In 1945, Jang Tae-song, played by Park Seo-joon, is the wealthy owner of a pawn shop in Japanese-occupied Gyeongseong, which is the old name for Seoul. On his quest to look for the missing mistress of the Japanese police commissioner, Tae-song meets Yoon Chae-ok, played by Han So-hee, who is also looking for a missing person, her mother. On their search, they discover that the Japanese-controlled hospital in the city is hiding a very dark and very deadly secret. That was really fun to write, by the way. So, first of all, what made you decide to watch Gyeongseong Creature? I'm actually really curious about this, why you picked it up.
I guess I was just in the mood for monsters. I didn't know a lot about the drama beforehand. I just knew it had monsters and Park Seo-joon, and apparently that was enough to sell me. Yeah.
Right?
So what was your reason?
Honestly, me too. Yeah, honestly, me too. I love Park Seo-joon. I love Han So-hee. And from the trailer, you could tell, I mean, there was some sort of like science fiction-y monster. We of course didn't know how it came about, but we knew there was a monster, and I love monsters. And so like I'm always going to watch something like that. Like really, honestly, the trailer felt right up my alley. It truly did, for like everything that I like. So yeah, I guess the same as you. Like it was the leads and a monster. That's
and
all I need.
I've only seen Park Seo-joon in What's Wrong with Secretary Kim. So that was the only role I'd seen him in. So I was like, okay.
Oh, really? So you haven't seen seen Itaewon Class
yet?
Oh, okay. It's okay. You have plenty of time. That's also a doozy for Park Seo-joon. That's yeah. Okay, and this is kind of maybe a hard one, but how would you sell Gyeongseong Creature to someone who is considering watching it?
On a shallow level, I'd say if you like a 40s vibe combined with action, monsters, and Park Seo-joon, then I'd say, okay, go for it. On a more deeper level, I think that if you like moving, you might also like this one, because moving, okay, also has very bloody action scenes. But at the core of moving is, or are the parents who want to protect their children. And that theme also comes back in Gyeongseong Creature.
Oh, it does.
So how would you sell it?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that too. I love that it's like an action drama, but with very good core humanistic themes. I have said this before, when we had a podcast recently about monsters, and I said, the theme of who's the bigger monster, the like monster or the human, I'm always going to love like that. That always sells me, even though I know it's always the human who's the bigger monster.
Yes, unfortunately, that's
the
case,
actual
right?
monster. It is. But that's always going to sell me. And I would also actually say for a non-K-drama comp is Stranger Things. So I love Stranger Things. And there were several kind of plot lines in Gyeongseong Creature, at least the first season, that reminded me a lot of Stranger Things, about some of the plot lines in that show. Although, of course, Stranger Things is like 4 seasons, but Stranger Things still remains probably one of my favorite Western TV shows. It's one that I will drop everything to watch when seasons are released. And Gyeongseong Creature, to a degree, gave me similar feelings, I would say. And yeah, who would not like Gyeongseong Creature? Like, what would you not like that would deter you?
Yeah, if you do not like monsters, don't start Gyeongseong Creature, or blood, but also human on human violence, because there is torture in there and it's rough. So if those are no-goes for you, don't watch this.
Yeah, the torture was hard for me. I've said before, I can do violence, but torture is really, really rough. I hate it a lot. I hate it. So watching it in Gyeongseong Creature was difficult for me. I will admit, I actually fast forwarded through some of the scenes because it was just too much for me.
But it did have a reason.
The torture
was in there for me.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was hard for me because the torture really did have a purpose. There was a, which we'll get to, I think, but so I understood why they put it in there, and it also had historical context. Again, this is set in Japanese-controlled Gyeongseong or Seoul. Is it kind of an alternative timeline? Yes, which I think I'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah. So I think there was a reason. There's a purpose. I will also say that the Japanese in this are just straight up villains. I mean, like awful.
They're pretty one-dimensional in that sense.
They are. They're kind of one-dimensional evil, inhumane villains. So that if that is just something, I mean, some of them have some context, but not really. They're pretty much all just bad people. So if that's also not up your alley, I respect that because it was a little brutal. Okay, so I'm sorry, but that is it for like non-spoilers. I'm sorry, but we got to get to like the meat of Gyeongseong Creature. You know what I mean? That's what we're here for. And there's 2 seasons to cover, and we are going to kind of talk about both of them. We're going to try to tackle season 1 first, but we might have to talk about some of season 2. We're going to see how it goes, so bear with us. As for the first season of Gyeongseong Creature, which is 10 episodes, by the way, and I said it's on Netflix, right? Yes, I already said that. Okay. So as we mentioned, Taesong, which is Park Seo-joon, is looking for Akiko, who is the pregnant mistress of the police commissioner, Ishikawa, who threatened Taesong's livelihood if he doesn't find her. So it's not like Taesong, he's like a reluctant hero. He's not looking for Akiko at the beginning out of like the kindness of his heart. He's looking for Akiko because he knows a lot of people. He's kind of this like wealthy pawn shop owner. And so the police commissioner is like, I think you can find her. And if you don't look for her, I will like take everything you own and kill everyone you love, basically. So his search leads him to Onsong Hospital. Yoon Chae-uk, who along with her father is looking for her lost mother, also believes Onseong Hospital is hiding secrets. What she never expects is that her mother has been part of a human experiment and has been turned into a massive monster with claws, fangs, and tentacles, a product of a mad scientist looking to create controllable superhumans. To be honest, his like motive is a little murky, I feel, right? Because I think he's trying to create kind of like super soldiers.
Yeah, we have a military guy and we have this doctor guy, and they sort of team up, and their motive doesn't really become clear. No,
it doesn't. Just FYI, I think they just like torturing Korean people. So the drama doesn't tease this out for long, the fact that her mother is this monster. And in fact, the audience, we know the identity of the monster before Chae-uk. I mean, I think we know this in like episode 2 or 3. It's very early. And it's because the monster itself has still, which is crazy that this woman has been turned into this monster and still has this necklace, but she still has a very distinct necklace that her daughter made for her. So the tension of the drama isn't who the monster is, but what's interesting is the main tension, to be honest, is how the monster will react when faced with her own daughter. That's, will she kill her mindlessly because she's this like giant creature? Or is there like humanity in her left that recognizes her child? What was your reaction to their first meeting? And how did like kind of like the motherhood themes impact you? Because I would say from my point of view, the motherhood and parental themes were very, very strong in this drama, and probably what drew me in the most.
If I think back about Gyeongseong Creature, season 1, there are actually 2 images that are really clear in my mind. So the first image is actually when her mother freezes in her attack. And then you see the tentacles almost hitting her, and then she freezes, realizing it's her daughter. And the second image,
she says like "Oma" or "Omani." I think she said like the. Yeah.
And then the second image that comes to mind is the protective cage she forms around her with the tentacles, and that just really got to me. And I think I'm quite an analytical person, but I'm also a mother, and that the fact that, or what the drama tries to convey, is that even if you are turned into a monster, that your mother instincts prevail. That just, that was good.
So I was thinking like when I was watching season 1, I'm like, I like it. This is cool. They're like, it's a lot of action. Park Seo-joon's really charming. Han So-hee looks great. They're on a search for her mom. Oh my gosh, this hospital's terrible. Like I was liking it a lot, and I was very entertained. And then when they had her meet her mother, so they're both the mother is essentially in this like underground dungeon type thing, and so the mad scientist can like look down on her through like these like bars, and they want to, I think that that's the thing too. They kind of just want to like run tests on this like monster. And part of it is they're like, let's see if like what she does with her daughter, let's just throw her daughter in there and see what happens. I agree with you that when the monster freezes and kind of like blinks her eyes and you can almost like see the humanity kind of still in there. And then for some reason, I still don't really know why, but then the scientists are like, shoot the monster. And that moment when, like you said, when she takes her tentacles and surrounds her daughter, like her tentacles split off into almost like all these like branches.
It's almost like
you're right.
That like almost like a heart shape, right?
Yeah, it was. And it was like it was like a protective branch cave thing. I cried. I couldn't believe it. I was like, how am I crying? Like, I did not expect to cry. And I remember my heart just just swelled in my chest. Like I just found that to be incredibly cinematic. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm on board now with this drama, right?
Yeah, it was such a
kind of reminded me of
image. Such a powerful image of protection by a mother.
So powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of the mother who's been turned into this hideous creature who cannot be returned to human. I mean, we all know she's not going back. She kills indiscriminately. They show that, but the fact that she still recognized her daughter was and tries to protect her.
Yeah.
Was crazy.
And that again is repeated in the end again.
Yes, which we'll get to because there's echoes of it in season 2, which I found really cool. So the monsters, just so you know, are created by the victim or the human or whoever eating or drinking a parasite, which is called a Najin, which is the Romanized way they spell it is Najin in the English version, English subtitles. So some die instantly. They kind of explain this science fiction part, but not really sure. So, but not everyone turns into a creature. I guess only a select few, whatever your body chemistry is. Yeah, so they kind of turned into this like grotesque creature. So what did you think about the science fiction details of the Najin? And if you need to talk about season 2, that's fine too.
So I really had a hard time following this. So why does somebody turn into a monster? Why does somebody turn into, season 2, a Kuroko? When does somebody stay human but with superpowers? I found this highly confusing, and only on a quick second rewatched, I realized, it also has to do with certain conditions and that they add this anthrax serum. And at a certain point, I just thought, okay, I just have to go with the flow. I just have to accept that some people die and some people get turned into this type of monster and some people get turned into that type of monster.
Yeah. So season 2, which we'll probably get more to this, but in season 1, I thought it seemed I thought it made sense because in season 1, you either die, like it just doesn't work with your body chemistry, or you turn into a monster. That fit to me a little bit more. It's like, some people get poison ivy, some people don't. Does that make, you know what I mean? Like I could follow that. I would say season 2, adding in that some of them turned into monsters and some of them turned into these like super immortal humans was weird. And I do think they try to explain it.
To do with getting adult Najin that had been cultivated in a different person before. Well, just go with the flow, I thought. We'll just have to accept this.
It was weird.
Yeah, I found that one hard.
Yeah, it was one of those where I was like, okay, I mean, if you say so.
Yeah, and then, sorry, again, flash forward to season 2. In season 2, you have these humans with superpowers. Those are called Kuroko. Because, one of the guys, one of the characters, he doesn't have a name. He's called Kuroko 1 if you look up the cast. But then you have other Kurokos, and they just move like these cockroaches. So how do we get the difference?
Oh, wait, I forgot about those too. They're superhuman, and then there's like the weird...
Yeah, they move like...
You're right, that's a whole...
Quickly, like sort of insect-like. Those are also the Kurokos.
Wait, you're right. I almost forgot about those. So that's like a whole nother type. So it's like, how does it determine what kind of person you are with the Najin?
In season 1, they it had to do with whether a certain serum was administered when they got the Najee.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So maybe they do that in
But I
season
think
2 as well. I don't know.
Yeah, it was way more simple in season 1, which I think worked better, but we can get to that. For 10 episodes, there are like a good amount of storylines. So, what was one that stood out to you? Like any particular character, any theme? And we had side characters. It was a lot.
I'd like to highlight 2 themes, which I think are connected. And the first one has to do with the journey that Taesung has, because he starts out as somebody who says, I just want to survive. I'll just glide along. I'm not going to join the resistance. I'm just going to do anything to stay alive because I promised this to my mother. And then he transitions to somebody who will risk his life to save the people from the hospital, to save Cheok. So that's a really interesting growth. And you see the reverse in a way in his friend, and I have to look his name up again, Kwon Jun-tak, played by
Wee Ha-jun.
Because he starts out as this idealist in the resistance, trying to get Korea back again. But in the end, he's captured, he's threatened with torture, and he betrays his friend. So he then does anything to just stay alive. And combined with that is also the theme of forgiveness. We see that with Mrs. Nabel, who voices it in a way saying that, okay, if you are being tortured, just tell everything. Just give them all the names. I won't blame you for it. Also, that even if you betray us, I won't blame you for it. And the same is done by Taesung also in the end, when Lady Maida reveals that all 3 of his employees have betrayed him. And he says, well, he still stands by them, saying that I still stand by them because those were extreme circumstances. So that's also a way of forgiving.
You're right. The theme of forgiveness is so strong, especially with Mrs. Nawal. I'm glad you mentioned her. So Mrs. Nawal, it was revealed that Park Tae-sung, his mother was killed as part of the resistance. And the reason his mother was killed is because Mrs. Nawal was tortured to the point where she gave up the names.
Yeah.
So including Taesung's mother. So while Taesung was essentially hiding in a cellar, his mom was killed. And he finds out, and Mrs. Nawal she basically dedicates her life to Taesung after that because of the guilt. And when Taesung finds out, he's like, I can't blame you. Because at that point, Taesung's been tortured. He knows what it's like. And you're right. There's a lot of forgiveness. There's forgiveness under extreme circumstances. And I also really loved that. I thought, I would still say the motherhood theme was probably my absolute favorite, but I agree about forgiveness.
Yeah. So do you have another theme or character that you liked?
Mrs. Nawal was one of my favorites. I really loved her. I also loved Han So-ee's dad, Jungwon. He was also one that he believed in. He made the ultimate sacrifice essentially for his daughter and even for his wife. And I really liked him. And what did you think about the romance between Taesung and Chaeuk? Because they really, I'm kind of surprised at how much they were able to cram in 10 episodes.
But I liked it. I really liked it. And I also like that they meet fighting. They meet in the alley and they fight. And that meet fight is also mirrored, but then the opposite in season 2. And I really like that, they fight and then her hat flies off and he sees her and you see immediately that he falls for her at that point. And
no, it's a meat fight. That's what it is. It's like a meat fist to knife fight.
It's not really enemies to lovers, but they start out fighting.
They do. Well, Han So-hee doesn't trust anyone for good reason. She's been looking for her mother. She knows that there's nefarious things going on. So she doesn't trust anyone, but she manages to finally trust Park Tae-sung, and they end up becoming everything to her. And I think Park Tae-sung, his evolution from extremely selfish, kind of wealthy, I'm just going to protect myself, to this man who's willing to sacrifice for other people is beautiful to see. It's a really, really wonderful character growth journey for him.
And you see him growing in that, and that he realized, oh, I really care for this person. I want to protect her.
Yes.
And then, you know, that scene in the hallway where they're almost discovered by the Japanese, and he pulls her to the side, and you see the tension growing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. As I mentioned, Stranger Things. So the scene where they're essentially like, there's a scene in the hospital where they dress up as Japanese soldiers, and they like run around the hospital as like Japanese soldiers to kind of like investigate what's going on. That's what reminded me of Stranger Things, when Joyce and Hopper dress up as like the Russian soldiers, and they're like running around that Russian prison. It's like, it gave me very similar vibes. I think another Patreon member is the one who actually like brought it up, and as soon as they said it, I was like, you're right. Oh my God, it's like the same thing. So I really like that.
So what do you think about the romance line continues in season 2? So what do you think about that one?
The romance line?
So we have it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously the romance in season 2 was much stronger, I think. Well, I shouldn't say that, because the romance, it was interesting because in season 2, which we'll talk about, he doesn't know who she is, but she remembers him. And so that kind of slow build romance, because like his soul knows her, you know? And I'm always going to love that. It's like, essentially it's an amnesia plot line.
Yeah.
If you're going to boil it down. But his soul knows her. And I will say in season 2, we get like consummation.
Yeah.
And I'm always going to be happy. Like, give me like a bed scene where I know that they finally like consummated their love.
You know that I said that there are certain scenes that I think about when I think about Gyeongseong Creature 1. When I think about season 2, I think about their meat fight, and when she realizes that it's Taesung in front of her, and the look on her face and the emotion that then, when the realization hits her, that's what I think about when I think about Gyeongseong Creature 2.
Yeah, and also knowing that she's lived 60 years. Just as like this like wandering soul. She's lived 60 years.
Thinks he's dead.
Thinking he died a long time ago. Like a normal human lifespan. Or at least he was like an old man or something. But either way, you know. Okay, so Commissioner Ishikawa's wife, Lady Maida, there'll be much more of her in season 2. But in season 1, she proves to be the real villain of the drama, as she orchestrated the human experiments. Again, we're not really sure. She's just kind of like an evil person. But most of her motivations do seem to be fueled by personal vendettas and revenge. So remember Aporo Kiko, the mistress of Lady Maida's husband. The whole reason she went missing is because of Lady Maida. Lady Maida found out, took Akiko, put her in the hospital where the human experiments were being conducted, and, you know, wanted to throw away the key. So let's start with the season 1. What did you think about her like villainy essentially in season 1?
I think she is a great villain. She's very, very composed, but also cold-hearted. She doesn't understand the meaning. Her definition of friendship is really different from, I think, our definition of friendship. And she doesn't take rejection lightly. I think she's almost like a sort of psychopath.
No, she does not. Yeah.
Yeah, so when you first meet her, you don't really realize that she's the villain. But later on, you learn that she's actually funding the hospital and has sent Akiko there to, well, be experimented on and die. And she sort of seems to regard people as something she wants to own or control. And that's pretty scary.
Yeah, and like essentially play with. She's like a cat playing with a mouse, or
and she's
like playing with her food.
She can be really, well, not friendly, but nice in a more formal way. And then as soon as she's rejected, you see the real Lady Maida. You see her, yeah.
Right?
And I DM'd you before, it doesn't happen every instance, but when she's rejected, she often then starts to talk in Japanese again. Like if her talking Korean is sort of a nice gesture towards, I know if she's talking to Taesung or so. And then as soon as she's rejected, she will resort to talking Japanese again. Not all the time, but on crucial moments, she does that.
Yeah, and I did not notice that. So I'm glad that you noticed that on a rewatch, that she switches from Korean to Japanese. Essentially that like a sign of respect to talk in Korean, but as soon as she doesn't respect you, she's just going to speak however she wants to speak. Yeah, I liked her because I think inherently she's not a good person. I think she views people as disposable. I think she views Koreans as less than. I think she views anyone who's below her in social class as less than, even Japanese.
She says that, huh? So that's one of the questions she is confronting Taesung with. She's saying, do you still think that all lives are equal?
Yes. You're right. Good point. She does say that. Like, she really does not believe that everyone is equal. So, I mean, that's a fundamental characteristic of her. And that makes sense if you look at her motivations. That is how she feels. But then she also takes things very personal, and she exacts revenge and has personal vendettas, and she will do everything she can to get revenge just from being slighted. Which becomes more apparent in season 2, but in season 1, she does the same thing.
And I was also wondering that she is sort of interested in Taesung. I was wondering, is that revenge because her husband has a mistress, that she also wants a partner too?
That was a weird thing to me. I was like, what is her obsession with him? Because she's obsessed with him, and you don't realize it at first. You don't. I mean, who wouldn't be obsessed with Park Seo-joon? Like, I don't fully blame her, but she definitely has this obsession with him that carries over into season 2, which is wild. I'm like, lady, there are more fish in the sea. Like, move on. Move on. You are wealthy and beautiful after your plastic surgery in season 2. Move on. She is crazy. She is Looney Tunes.
Yeah, I did not get that. And I was just thinking, so maybe she wants a partner in crime and somehow has labeled Haesung to be her partner in crime. I don't know. Or more like a trophy.
I do think
wants.
that's a good point. I do think that at the beginning, she thinks Taesung is like her. She thinks Taesung doesn't view people as equal. I think she views him as a selfish person, which she is. So she's like, he's perfect for me. I think he's like me. And then when it turns out Taesung is not like her, that infuriates her because she was wrong. And she is pissed at him for not being like her.
But she's still trying to convince him. She's still trying
Even in
to
season
get
2,
him
she's still
over
trying
to her side. Look at what your friends have done. They've betrayed you. So come over to my side.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, and the rest of the villains, what did you think? I mean, the rest of the villains were a little like the scientist was just kind of like a crazy, mad scientist who just like can't think of anything but his experiments. And even
they were just,
I don't know,
they were
like
just being villains. Season 2 got better with villains, to be honest, on the villain side.
Okay, so let's discuss the ending of Gyeongseong Creature Part 1. So let me give a brief synopsis of what happened. So essentially, Chaeok and Taesung are on the run from Lady Maida and her many goons because she wants to kill them because she's a bad person. And they are cornered by the many goons and are actually saved by Chaeok's mother, the monster, who got loose and has like one burned arm at that point because they thought she died. Because part of it was Chaeok's father essentially blew up the lab, blew up the hospital. And I think he thought his wife, the monster, would die. And he was okay with that. I mean, she was a monster. I think he was trying to like put her out of her misery, essentially. But she survived with like one burned arm. So she saves Chaeok and Taesung, but she doesn't know who Taesung is. So she's just on a killing rampage, and so she sends her tentacles flying out to kill Taesung, but Chaeok steps in front of Taesung because she loves him. and the tentacles go right through her, and she's essentially dying. So it's like horrible because you just watched this whole thing. You saw how much Chaeok suffered. I mean, she is crying and traumatized. I mean, she's a badass too, but she's also extremely emotionally fragile throughout this drama. But at the end, although she's not emotionally fragile, that's when she's like, this is what I'm sorry, Mom. Put yourself out of your misery. And I died for someone I loved. And so I'm okay with that. I'm okay with this. And and I'm like crying. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe this. I cannot believe she died. Oh my God.
I did not expect that.
And then there's me either. I did not expect that. I thought maybe Taesong would die, but I didn't think Chaeok would die. And then there is so you think it's over and you're like, God, that was rough. And you're trying to process it. And then there's an ending scene, which is very short, but essentially the creature, the monster mommy and Chaeok are in a large body of water. And you think Chaeok, that's her dead body. And the monster is still alive and opens her mouth. And the little Najin, which is like a little worm type thing. It looks like a little, or like a little...
A 3-type beak. Yeah.
Little tentacles.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's kind of got that weird tentacle beak thing. And it swims out of the mom's mouth into Chaeok's mouth. And then the creature just sort of sags. Because I think essentially that's the death of the creature. It swims into Chaeok's mouth and underwater her eyes open. And that's it. The end. What? And you're like, what? Oh my God. So, and then you get another brief scene that shows a modern day Seoul. A man who looks like Taesong with this wicked, surgery scar in the back of his neck, in the nape of his neck. And that's it. So you, that's the tease for, you're absolutely okay, there's a season 2. Because why would you film this, futuristic, or not futuristic, present day scene? So, first of all, what did you think about that, crazy ending? And then did you, pretend that you don't know what happened in season 2. What were kind of your hopes for season 2?
Okay. So what I liked is that she got a final gift from her mother. So that was her last gesture as a mother to her daughter. So yes, that was good.
It's the last thing she could do for her. She couldn't do anything else, but she could keep her alive.
So that was really beautiful. But that the scene you described in modern day Seoul is actually after the ending titles, and I would have missed it if you didn't post something about it on Instagram. Yeah, you said something.
Oh, really?
You have to watch the entire for an extra epilogue. I would have otherwise missed it. So thank you for that.
Oh wow!
And I'm
you're welcome.
What?
I'm glad.
What's going on here? I'm hoping it's their son, but they call him Hojae, so maybe it's a grandson.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. We hear the name Hojae, so we know he's not any response to Hojae. So you're right. I forgot to say that.
So, So my first reaction was, so apparently this isn't Taesong, so it's probably his grandson we're looking at.
Right.
But then you don't know what happened with Chaeyoung. She's alive, but
I know
what's going to happen after that. And there's this big time gap. Suddenly we're in modern day Seoul. So what happened in between? I don't know. We still don't know.
Yeah, we still don't really know. But yeah, because that's, if I'm mathing right, that's 60 years. So you're okay, and it's a young Taesong. It's a Taesong, he looked the Hojae character looked like the same age as Taesong did in 1945.
So did you have any theories?
So I didn't have any theories. I was thinking it was Taesong, but I also wasn't sure. I was it could go either way. It could be a grandson. I was thinking that, but I'm the surgery scar and they zoom on, they want you to see it. It's clearly a clue that something weird went on, but then the fact that he goes by a different name and also seems to be a little clueless. I think it's not he's oh, hey, like know all this creature business. I don't know. It gave like an innocent vibe too. So I'm like, what? It's very weird. I admit that I did not know, but I had two kind of theories. Yeah. It would be like a relative or it's Taesung, but somehow, I don't know. He was like in a cryo freezer for 60 years. Like, I don't know. Okay. So now we get to season 2. We're going to talk a little bit more about season 2 now. And this is 7 episodes. Did I already say that? Okay. In season 2, Gyeongseong Creature flashes to the present, where Chaeok is still alive, and there's a Taesung lookalike who goes by a different name, Hojae, and he has no memory of the past. He's basically like, kind of he has like a business sort of with a friend, and
yeah, he's sort of trying to, I think, catch people.
Yeah, he's sort of not a detective, but he's a little bit of like a missing person
like
searcher, which is interesting. That's what.
Yeah,
he's kind of a private detective. Yeah. So yet, Hojae and Chaeok meet again, as their fates would have it, and soon learn the trauma of the past has caught up with them again. So we already discussed what theories that we thought happened to Hojae before the reveal. What did you think of the second meeting between Hojae and Chaeok? We mentioned this a little bit already.
I really liked it because it hit me that when she looked at him and realized, oh, this is Taesung. I liked that it was mirrored compared to the first season. Yeah, and that they meet fighting again really just at the same time. Yeah,
and again, Chaeok. We know basically in the first episode that she has been alive for 60 years. She is immortal, essentially, can't die. And she's sort of like a monster hybrid. Like, she has superpowers. She can be like stabbed. They don't make this super clear because there's something about her that she can be creature-ish and kind of go on like killing rampages, because she did, like, way back in like 1945 when she was first turned. But she's like learned how to suppress that. She has like some sort of drug she takes to suppress those like monster urges.
Yeah, and they only get the monster urges when they have lost, for instance, a lot of blood. Then apparently they have to go on this rampage.
Yeah, it's almost like their electrolytes need to be replaced by human blood. So
now the blood is just interesting through the eye.
Oh, they do. They suck the brains through the eyes. Correct. It is a little weird because in the first season, there was no monster like her. And I think that they try to say she's different because her mom gave her the Najin. So because of her mom giving it to her, that's why she's different. Yeah, they say somewhere that if you get an adult Najin, that you then stay human. So that's also why we're going to get to Sunjo. Also has a human form because he got his Najin also from his mother. Yes. Yeah. Okay, we will get to them, and then we can kind of... This is a lot. This is almost like hard to cover. Yeah. This is a lot. But, okay.
I'm assuming the people who listen to this have already seen it.
I know. I hope you've already seen this, because if not, we are going to be very confusing. There's just no other way about it. Okay, so at the end of season 1, we think Lady Maida has been mostly neutralized. While she lives, she's been like horribly burned in this like big fire at the end of season 1. But in season 2, we see her burns are not quite as severe as we expected. Like, they show her right after the fire, and it's not that bad. I'm like, I thought she was like in a wheelchair, horribly burned, but whatever. And then later, she manages to get plastic surgery and has exacted her revenge on Taesung by killing everyone he loves in his house of treasure in horrible ways, and then giving him the Najin parasite. I gotta talk about this, because this honestly is where I started to lose my love in season 2. I absolutely hated this whole flashback. It felt... So the amount of the characterization you gave us in season 1 with all 3 of the members of the House of Treasure, which was Taesung's pawn shop. So we had Mrs. Nalwal, we had Mr. Goo, and then we had the like errand boy kind of. And even he had like a journey in season 1. And then you find that Lady Maida, again, not as burned as you think she is, which also feels like a little retconned, that they were like, oh, wait a minute, she's not that bad. She just has a couple burns on the side of her face. It's like, really? At the end of season 1, you made it seem like she was completely incapacitated for life, but that's beside the point. So she corners Taesung. I don't know why he went to go see her in the first place. Like, why would you go see her alone?
I think she went to him. Oh, he goes
No, remember,
first,
he goes to the bar.
Yeah.
Remember? I'm like, why are you going there? You know she's evil. What? You know she experimented on people. What are you doing there? So he goes there, and of course she kills him because he refuses to join her, essentially, again. He rejects her again, says, I'm not like you. And she's like, fine, then I'll kill you and everyone you love. And it just felt awful. Like, I remember I was like watching this thinking, okay, Taesung's gonna live, someone's gonna save his like friends, his like only family, essentially. Like, you realize at this point he's lost Cheok. He thinks she's dead. He's in mourning for her, because this is still back in 1945. And then he goes, is essentially killed by Lady Maida, although she gives him the Najin at that point. And then he goes to his house of treasure, or he like wakes up there. And his like whole family is dead. And I'm like, what? Why did we do that? Why did we have to kill them? Like, I guess I still don't understand why we had to kill them. Did that make sense to you?
And no, it did not make sense. It just felt really horrible that they had to die.
It did. It felt just traumatizing.
Yeah. Why did Mrs. Nowell have to die?
Yeah, Mrs. Noah had to die. And the horrible thing is that he killed her because he like woke up with the Najin. He's like half turning into a monster. And she's like, it's okay. Do what you need to do. So I guess he eats her brain. I guess.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's the point where I started to like not be pleased with season 2. And I don't hate season 2, but compared to season 1, this is where it really started to lose me, because I felt like the whole point and heart of the show felt, I felt like we were losing it a little bit.
And that also, I think, also has to do with this big gap of which we almost do not know anything. What was the relationship of Taesung and Lady Maida in that time period?
Right.
I don't know anything about it. Did he sort of work with her or not? Because he seems to know
very
Sungjo. We'll get to that later. But
yeah,
what happened there? And there are so many questions around that time gap that makes what happens in the now more difficult to follow, more difficult to understand.
It does. It totally does. Because this is why. Because then, so he gets the Najin back in 1946 or something, like a little bit of time after the whole hospital situation. Okay, so we know he gets the Najin a few years later, something like that. And he did not lose his memory when he gets the Najin. He's like fully aware of everything that happened. And so, yeah, what was he doing? Because because then when we flash to the present, all the mad scientists know who he is. And it seemed like they had access to him, because then we find out that something like he was getting out of control,
or he wanted to
something.
Get out,
so they took
we have this chase with him on the bike and the Kurokus and
and then they took the Najin out of him, and I was like, well, how did you manage to do that? Like, how is this all happening? And
there was
it just didn't make sense to me.
Question marks in season 2.
Yeah, and actually, I'll say what. Let's get to Sungjo. Get to Sungjo,
he's
because
at the core.
Sungjo, because he's at the core, and this is where a lot of the questions I had because it didn't make sense. I'm like, why? How did he know Sungjo? So we get a new villain in season 2, or like a sort of villain. Okay, it's like debatable. He kind of goes back and forth. So Bae Hyung-sun plays Sung-jo, and Bae Hyung-sun is currently in, I think, A Family by Choice, where he looks like he plays like a cinnamon roll.
Adorable.
But as Sung-jo, he is just deliciously bad. So he is, he has the same abilities essentially as Cheok, because he is the son of Akiko, the mistress. So the mistress, Akiko, had back in season 1 had accidentally drank a glass of water. She didn't know what was in it, but the Najin was in it. So before she gave birth, while she was pregnant, she was infected with the Najin. So at the very, very end of season 1, we see the baby being born. We see the scientist holding it next to like dead Akiko. And we see that the little parasite is like under the skin of the baby. So we know this baby exists. And that is who Sung-jo is. But Lady Maida has raised him as her own. He is aware of who his mother is, but Lady Maida has raised him. I'm not exactly sure how he knows how his mother is. I don't feel like they make that super clear, but he does know. I will say, first of all, what do you think about him in this role? Because I
liked it.
He deserves a shout out. Right.
It was a positive surprise for me in season 2 because he looks adorable, and then he gives this villainy sly smile. I'm like, okay, hello, Mr. Monster. So I really liked it, but I think he needed more in this drama, because I think what I would have liked is to see his struggle, because he is born as a monster, or at least half monster, half human. So he has to make the choice. Do I want to become a monster? Do I want to become a human? And we see Lady Maida nurturing his monster side, encouraging him to kill. Yeah.
Yeah.
We know he has a connection with Taesung, or with Hojae. He calls him young. At a certain point, he says that he wants to die for him. So he has this connection. Where does this connection come from? It looks like Hojae has been nurturing his human side. But we only hear it from Sungjo saying it, that Hojae says that he can be human. We don't see it. So what did you think of that choice, that we don't see that part?
That was so frustrating to me. I wish we would have gotten a full... Okay, how about you don't give us the backstory where you kill his family? Because I don't understand. Again, I don't think you needed that. I really don't think you needed that. Like, Lady Maida did enough. You don't also need her killing those people. Give us the backstory of Hojae and Sungjo. Like, that is what I wanted. I wanted to understand how they ever met. Like, how did why was he in this inner circle in the first place? He had his memory at that point. He knew what had happened. So why was he like involved?
Yeah, he was somehow in these
ongoing
involved, because
Sungjo like, how was he still involved in this company?
And him calling Hojae young means that they really had a close connection.
Yeah. And so, and I still don't understand. So I guess they thought Hojae was becoming, they said like uncontrollable. He was out of control. They couldn't control him anymore. So they took the Najin out of him. But that's my biggest thing, is why didn't you just kill him? They took the Najin out of him, and then they're like, just live quietly without your memories. It's fine. And I'm like, why didn't you just kill him then? Did Lady Maida,
I think one of his friends
make you keep him alive?
One of his friends pleaded for that. But we don't get to know that friend really well.
We don't. And I guess I just still don't understand. So here's the thing, is Park Seo-joon in season 1, Taesung, had plot armor. Absolutely, he had a lot of plot armor. Season 2, he had such unbelievable plot armor that...
Oh my God.
It was just like... You know what I'm saying? It just didn't make sense. I was like, look, they would have killed him by now. I don't understand why. I mean, there was almost no incentive to keep him alive. So it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think season 2 would have been so much more interesting if it would have been more about Sungjo's choice to either become human or a monster. And we see him transitioning to become a monster. But because we're lacking information, it doesn't have the emotional impact. You mean we see him crying in the car that he cannot help Hojay, but because we haven't seen a lot of his internal struggle, yeah, you're not so sympathetic.
I wonder if, yeah, and I wonder if they cut some scenes. That's the only thing I can think of. But like, it's streaming on Netflix. Just give us 10 episodes. Like, I guess I don't understand.
That's what I was wondering as well, because I'm now used to K-dramas being 16 episodes, which also means that we sometimes get a saggy middle. Season 2 was 7. And I was thinking, is this more for a Western audience who likes shorter dramas? That they maybe cut something? But then I read this week that it was supposed to be season 1 and 2, one drama with 20 episodes. And I really viewed these seasons separately, not as one story. So that maybe also makes a difference.
I did too. I think one season with 20 episodes would have been really cool. Or like a part 1, part 2, but they came out very quickly. Like what was the even maybe more like Alchemy of Souls, because didn't part 1 and part 2 come out a little bit closer, or am I wrong?
I don't know.
Alchemy of Souls,
I think I was late at the party.
I can't remember, but I think
I was late at the party for Alchemy of Souls. I think it was already out both seasons.
Okay. Yeah, I was too. So that's what I'm trying to. But either way, I think maybe putting the seasons together, and also 20 episodes would have been fantastic. I actually think season 2 needed 20 episodes. I felt like. I'm never one that's going to complain about action scenes. I love action scenes. But there were so many, I feel like there were just so many like blood and gore action scenes with no emotion behind it. You need the emotion behind it. Like even in season 1, there's like a big firefight. I remember there's that Korean soldier who has been like drafted to the Japanese army.
He's so cute.
And remember, he's like, yeah, and he's been really abused. Severely abused by the Japanese army. And he essentially he has to kind of like choose a side. And he's like, I'm going to choose who I am, and I'm going to choose my country, and I'm going to choose the resistance. And at his peril. I mean, he dies. So behind that like shootout scene was so much emotion. And in season 2, I just felt like we weren't getting that. And Sungjo seems so attached to Hojay, and Hojay almost didn't seem as attached to Sungjo, and because we didn't have the background, and it was so frustrating to me as a viewer, because I was like, I agree with you completely. I love the idea of what you said. Why didn't season 2 focus more on Sungjo? I honestly would have been fine if you made him the main thrust of season 2. Like, he was almost the main character. And Cheok and Taesong was sort of like a little bit in the back. I don't know. I love Sungjo. He was a beautifully evil kind of person, but inside so vulnerable, so broken because he has been raised by freaking crazy Lady Maida. Like, and all he wanted was like love and someone to treat him like a human, because he also felt human.
He was treated that way by Hojay. But we didn't get to see it.
Yeah, you're right.
It's only inferred. We only hear him saying it. And I think it would have been more impactful if we had seen it. And then when you get to the end, where you see him actually becoming the monster, becoming the real villain instead of his mother, that would have been great. And I missed that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting because we can talk about Lady Maida's death scene, because her death scene is tied into Sungjo's storyline. Because you think that, which we'll get to what happened with Hojay in a second. Let's first of all, so Lady Maida has given Hojay essentially like a choice to save people and blah, blah. So she's like alone, and she thinks she's like all happy with her evil deeds. And then Sungjo approaches her And she thinks, oh, good, this is my son, the little monster. He's going to be on my side. So I think that's all she really wanted. She wanted another person who was as evil as her. And I think she thought that would be Sungjo. But he makes the choice to fully embrace the monster. But because of that, he kills her. Like, essentially, that's what he does. He's like, I'm a monster and I'm also going to kill you.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like a weird... like he's like, if you want me to be the monster, then I will be, and I'm going to kill you for what you did to me, for what you put me through, for how you treat me.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind, because at first I was like, oh, I just want Chaeok to kill her, because essentially that's what, Lady Maida wants revenge on Chaeok because Taesong chose her. But in the end, I really liked that she died at Sungjo's hand. I also liked, so obviously her beauty means a lot to her. That is very evident throughout both seasons. And one thing we didn't mention about the creatures is that when the creatures are at rest, if they're like asleep, their skin emits essentially asbestos, which is kind of a cool defense mechanism. Oh, anthrax. I'm sorry. You're right.
No, anthrax doesn't work that way as depicted in the...
No, I don't think it does. This is some special kind of anthrax. But I do think it's a really cool defense mechanism of these creatures, I have to say. I always thought that this was kind of cool from season 1 as well. So when he kills her, she falls to the essentially the dungeon where some of the other creatures are kept, and those creatures are kind of like asleep. So the anthrax is like coming from them and falls on her face, and so it's like in death, her beauty is being burned away. Again, like, I don't necessarily care about the beauty part, but you can tell that is important to Lady Maida. So I thought that was a cool death scene for her, I guess. Did you also like find a little bit of poetry in that?
The two other things I also would like to add that first, before Sungjo kills her, he has been shot in the eye by, I think, the female detective. And Sungjo actually has two eye colors. So he has his brown eye color and he has his green eye color. So I call the green eye bit is monster eye. So his human eye has been shot. So he's only left with the green eye. So for me, that's also an indication of the transitioning into I'm going to be the monster.
Yeah, I love that because I didn't notice that.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you. I don't even know if I noticed his eyes were different colors.
But it's not always that
or I forgot.
But that's also why you can recognize Sungjo being Akiko's baby because of the dual eye color.
Yeah, I see. Because he was at the end of the. Oh, see, you're so smart. I didn't even notice that. I love the idea though that he was shot essentially in the brown eye.
But then he kills her. She falls down and she looks up. The image sort of fades, but Sungjo is in there. She starts speaking. I think she starts speaking Japanese again, and she says, "So beautiful." So for me, that's also looking at her creation, saying that's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, like she's like, oh, good. He's becoming the monster I've always wanted him to be, even if it's at my death.
That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, that's a good interpretation. I don't know what I was thinking at that moment, but you know what? I like your interpretation better than anything I thought of. I think that's really good.
Yeah.
Well, I don't love that, but I do love that her face burning.
So if we go back
again, I don't want to say if you have burns that you're ugly. I want to make sure of that. I'm saying this is Lady Maida. This is her beauty means everything to her. So the fact that in her mind she's losing some of her beauty is
and good riddance.
Yeah, good riddance.
If we then go back a little bit, so Lady Maida before she dies, she gives Hojae the choice. So either save your 3 friends or save Chaeok from drowning because we're going to remove her Najin. What did you think of her giving that choice to Hojae?
So I admit I didn't love this. And the reason I didn't love it is because it felt a little contrived. It was like, you only have time to save one. It's like, well, who says? Like it was very, I just felt like it was a little bit of an arbitrary, like you have this ticking time bomb that I'm making up the time. Like, I don't know. I guess I know she meant to hurt him, and she did. I mean, obviously. But it felt a little contrived to me. I didn't necessarily love it. And I also didn't understand the science enough to understand the stakes. Okay? Because I thought Cheok was going to die. I thought she was going to completely die. And then that wasn't the case.
That's also weird because her mom loses the Najin and she dies. And she loses the Najin. Or Hojae Taesang loses the Najin and they don't die.
Yeah, and then and also he gets the Najin back and it's just like, I'm back, baby. Like, you know what I mean? He's got his superpowers back. We didn't even get to that point because he got his Najin back. It's just so weird.
I also didn't really like that this choice was given, but what it did highlight is that something that Cheok said before, that she could take care of herself. She did not want to be saved.
Oh.
And he said, well, I'm a 40s guy. I'm old-fashioned. I want to protect you. And she says, no, I can take care of myself. I don't know if that were her exact words. So in a way, that also highlighted that he heard her, trusted her, he respected
her choice.
In a way.
I do like that. I will say, too, I did like that he got his memories back before the Najin. Like, he already was getting... It's not like the Najin gave him... I think it gave him the rest of his memories, but he was already starting to remember her before that. And I will always, like, the soul remembers. Like, I'll, if I'm reincarnated, my soul will remember you. I like that. It was cool seeing Park Seo-joon as, like, this, like, badass superhuman.
With his ripped shirts.
Like, so there's a scene where he gets his Najin, which, again, in, like, a big body of water, you like, plunge in and the Najin, like, enters your mouth or whatever. And you don't... The scene that you get where Park Seo-joon has his Najin back is you see, like, Sung-jo's face, and then it focuses kind of on this, like, hulking presence behind him. And it was a very cool camera shot, I do have to say. I did kind of gasp a little because it was really, really cool looking. Because then you're like, oh man, he's back, baby. He's back with his superhuman powers. He is going to kick everyone's ass. And he does. It's very cool. Very, very cool.
The action scenes are cool.
Yeah. I will say though, they did have let me get his name. They did have a new villain in season 2. Which I liked. I will admit it was very hard to figure out who was who. This was also really frustrating because you're like, are they someone from the past? Are they like it was a little confusing. But
you mean
okay, so one of the
Kuroko one who does not have a name.
The Kuroko one. Does not have a name.
Yeah.
He was cool as shit. I liked him, and I liked that he had a motivation, which was basically like, I want to save this woman I love. She's in a wheelchair. She wants to dance again?
Cello.
Dance? Play cello. She wants to do something again that she's not physically able to. And he's like, all right, I will enable you to do this. So I was like, okay, I mean, that's a simple motivation. Like, I like that. At least it was like some sort of like selfish motivation for him wanting to do something. So I did like him as a villain. I thought he was pretty cool.
And he could fight as well. Well.
Yeah, and then he was like a badass fighter too. So, okay. So yeah, let's actually talk about, because we talked about the motherhood stuff from season 1, which again is mirrored in season 2. So, first of all, in relation to Sung-jo, because it talks about how his mother essentially gave him the Najin as a baby to help him survive, I guess. That was sort of murky to me. Maybe you remember that a little bit better. So when Cheok is like losing her Najin, that like tentacle cave returned. Do you remember that? When she's in the water?
Yeah, and then it fell apart.
And when
again.
Yeah, when the Najin is like about to enter or about to leave her body, it gives like one last sort of like
Yeah.
protective cage around her. And I did love that. I did love
Yeah,
that.
it's the same protective image. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think they could have done so much more with
Yeah.
Songjo though, because I feel like all the motherhood themes that surrounded him were also talked about him by other people. So we didn't necessarily see him working through it. Because when they talked about how he got the Najin, it was like Lady Maida and like some other people. They were like talking about him. Remember, he's like I think he's like in a bed, so he overhears them. But I wanted to see him working through all of it.
Yeah, we
Do you know what I'm
didn't
saying?
see
I
enough
just feel
of
like
him.
we didn't get that.
And he could have, I think, I forgot the name of the actor. I think he could have done it. He could have shown it to us. So I'm a bit sad that we didn't get the opportunity.
Yeah, like give it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like you mean you think the actor was capable of it? I absolutely do too. It's like they just didn't give him the scenes to do it, which was frustrating to me. So I mean, essentially, did you like season 1 or season 2 more? I am just like your overall.
I think I liked season 1 more because it was more rounded. I liked the 40s vibe, and in the beginning, you also have Taesang. It's not really the Great Gatsby vibe because we're in the 40s and not in the 20s, but it feels like it. And you get also a little bit of humor with him getting into the car of the guy who's supposed to follow him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There was more
a bit more humor in there, although it was only in the beginning, but it felt more like one story. Whereas season 2 feels more like something to transition from season 1 to season 3. If we ever get.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, so it was really hard for me because I would say we recently did a list of our top 25 K-dramas, and this was before season 2 came out, and Gyeongseong Creature was in my top 25. I absolutely freaking love season 1. I thought, like you said, it was a perfect storyline. I actually would have been okay with even ending it like when her eyes opened with the Najin. I actually might have been okay with that. Just let my imagination fill in the rest of the blanks after that. So I was excited for season 2 though, once they gave us a teaser, only because I thought the season 1 was brilliant. But season 2 was not it didn't feel complete. The themes didn't feel complete. There were definitely missing scenes and backstories that were needed. It felt like I was thrown into the storyline with no exposition that was absolutely necessary. And that was really frustrating. And I feel like, I guess what frustrated me was season 1 felt so complete. So the fact that you gave us season 2, which felt incomplete, was frustrating. But I will say, I like the idea, and I understand what you're saying now. Was this almost like a bridge to season 3?
Yeah.
Why don't you describe what happened at the end of season 2?
So at the end of season 2, we see Cheok living with one of the antennas, one of the harmonies who were watching over the city for Hojae Taesang, just as a normal student, university student. So she seems to be living a normal life. And we see her walking down the street, and she crosses Taesang, Hojae. And they turn around, and they see each other. And you also see one of her memories or dreams, that she has a dream about Taesang. And you see them looking at each other, and that's it. And then we have the teaser again.
And she doesn't have her full memories. Like, you are aware she doesn't have her full memories, but there's something going on where she's dreaming, and Taesang does recognize her. Remember, he still has his Najin.
Yeah.
She does not.
And then we have the teaser with the production facility with lots of Najins who sort of end up in water bottles being transported to supermarkets.
Yeah, you literally see a Najin in a water bottle
Yeah.
in a supermarket.
The end.
And I'm like, how? Like, where are you going with this? I guess I was kind of like, that's a bold teaser. Because from a writer standpoint, how are you getting around that? How are you going to have a season 3 where not just everybody's like some sort of, unless that's what you want, but how season 3, everyone's going to either be a Kuroko or a superhuman or dead or a monster. Like, how are you getting around this by does someone come in at the last minute and save everyone from the water bottles? Like, how are you going?
Why? Why would you want it? That's also not clear to me. Why would you want to turn everybody into a superman?
Right, because Sungjo is there. So he's gone full monster.
Full villain. I would be watching
so he's the one who's
free to see that, to be honest.
Me too. I still think, though, it would have been even more impactful if we would have gotten a better story for him in season 2. But I guess, again, what is the motivation to put the Najin in water bottles? Like, and also where I'm almost hoping that in season 3, they're like, that was a dream. That was just Sungjo's dream. It didn't really happen. Because you got to explain to me how you're going to go to see, like,
yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where are you taking
need some
this?
Arguments to go along with the story. I just wanted to say that I read an article just this week, which said that it was supposed to be one season, 20 episodes, and that it was supposed also with the time jump to highlight that even though you think that the evil people are in the past, they are still there. That was also one of the themes.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't pick up of it because I viewed it as separate seasons.
I did too. And also, there's just too much that happened in the time gap that it almost didn't make sense. Like, why is now all this stuff happening again in 2024? What was going on during the 70s, the 80s, the 90s? Like, we're talking 60 years. Like, what was everyone doing then? That in this like evil empire? What was Lady Maida doing? Like, what was Hojay doing? Like, there's just there's too much of a time gap for you to make me believe that now is when stuff was happening again, kinda, you know?
That now suddenly things are happening. What happened in the 60 years? Yeah. I guess they were figuring out how to multiply Najin.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, because now there's apparently a whole 100,000s. I don't know. There's a lot. They're putting it in water bottles. And I really don't get the point, because you'd think Sungjo wouldn't want that, because he'd want to remain special in a way. Why would he want to make everyone like him?
I don't know. Maybe the writers can answer that in season 3.
I don't understand.
If there's a season 3, I will watch it.
Oh, I will too. The only thing I can think of is, okay, actually, this is the thing. The only thing I can think of is that somehow the Najin has been altered in that lab. Or that teaser wouldn't be the beginning of season 3. Maybe it would happen sometime in season 3.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Does that make sense? But I would think the Najin would somehow have to be altered. I don't understand how you could put the Najin in water bottles the way it's been presented to us.
No.
But even so, I feel like we still don't even understand what it does, because they haven't really fully explained it to us super well. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
That's what I said before. With the Najin, you just have to go with the flow.
Yeah. I will say, I feel like I heard more about Gyeongseong Creature after season 1. I didn't hear a lot of people talking after season 2.
No, I didn't see that many reviews, and the ones that I saw were not always enthusiastic. Yeah. Yeah.
For season 2. Yeah, because it wasn't that great.
Too many questions.
Some of the I feel like they changed the writing team, or I don't know. It's just hard when the first season was so good. It reminded me a little bit of My Dearest. So My Dearest, season 1 was gangbusters. I mean, incredible. Incredible. No notes, no corrections. Season 1 was great. And then season 2 was just, no. I don't like season 2.
I don't have that many problems with season 2. I think I was just so
I didn't
invested
like
in
it.
those characters that I didn't mind.
And that's fair. That's totally fair. But I think it frustrates me when I love the first season so much and I love the themes, then I don't feel like it's replicated, or I feel like something is lost along the way, you know? And I feel like that's the way it was with Gyeongseong Creature, which is so rough because season 1 was so good.
Yeah.
So good. I mean, is season 1 like high on your list? Like, did you really, really like it? Or were you just like, okay, it was all right?
It's pretty high on my list. Yeah. It's in my top 25. Yeah.
Yeah. See?
And
but season 2?
I must also say, season 2, not. No.
Yeah. No.
But I must say that when I watched season 1, I guess I was also in the mood for monsters, etc. Because I watched Gyeongseong Creature and I watched Death's Game. So apparently I was in the mood for those kind of dramas.
That's kind of a brutal. Yeah, that's kind of a brutal watch. I love Death's Game. Death's Game was fantastic. I really loved it. I'm trying to remember. I think I watched them back to back too, because Death's Game came out right after Gyeongseong Creature, and I watched both of them. Nope, you know what? I did that too. That was a brutal 2 months.
A lot of blood.
A lot of violence in those 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything else you'd like to add about Gyeongseong Creature?
Just one remaining open question from season 1. What was the relation between Lady Maida and Akiko? Because you have this one scene where they sort of meet or know each other, and that's it. We don't know it. So that's one remaining question I have with season 1.
Oh, you're right, actually. Now I think I remember that.
So season 1 also had open questions.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I would say season 1 wasn't perfect. I do remember that I mentioned the shootout scene in the hospital. They were like being advanced on by like an entire army, and they were just hiding behind this table. And they were like having this full conversation, this like full, like dramatic conversation. I was like, the army would have been on top of you. Like on the other, like just, they would have killed you by now. Like the plot armor was hysterical. But that's okay. It was still really good and really entertaining.
Do you have any final remarks?
I think it's one of those where maybe I'll reserve judgment for when season 3 comes out. It is hard because it's like when you present a drama to me in 2 separate episodes, like a year apart, it's always going to be hard for me because then I feel like if I didn't like the last half or the second season, I'm really soured on it. And it feels so disjointed. And I just wish they hadn't have done that. I actually really do wish they would have just given us 20 episodes. And I think the writers would have had an easier time as well. Yeah. So, well, I have to say thank you so much because we went really long. It's been an hour and a half. Oh my God. Isn't it late there?
No, it's almost 9:45 here.
Oh, well, that's kind of late. And you work. So I am so happy because honestly, you brought up so many points that like I didn't think of or I didn't know. And so this was really fun to talk.
So thanks for having me.
Good. Oh my gosh. No, thank you again for volunteering. And I just could not be happier about all the stuff we talked about. That was a lot of fun. So thank you. And I'm sure we'll have you on again.
When season 3 comes out.
If season 3 comes out, you're back on. So, all right. And to you listeners, thanks for listening. If you're still listening after an hour and a half about Gyeongseong Creature, thank you. And we'll talk to you next time.
Annyeong.
Annyeong.
감사합니다. Thank you for listening to Afternoona Delight. Where can you find us outside the pod? Head on over to afternoonadelight.com. That's AFTERNOONADELIGHT afternoonadelight.com. You'll find links to all our social media, our book recs, K-pop and K-skincare recs, and if you want even more Afternoona Delight, because really who doesn't, you can join our Patreon, where you can choose the patron level that's right for you. Join in daily K-drama conversations, listen to bonus podcast episodes just for patrons, and participate in our monthly live K-drama support group via Zoom. We can't wait for you to be a part of the community. Until next time, annyeong!